Folks, welcome to the Prepared Homestead. This is Travis. Thank you all for stopping by to watch. So the weather today is, it's very summer-like the last couple of days. In the mid-80s, supposed to be 84, 85 today. And while that's not like ridiculously high temperatures, unless you're living in England, then they'll be, warning you that you're all going to die. You have to understand the last couple of weeks, it's been really mild, very cool, highs in the 60s, maybe 70, 71, and then all of a sudden, yesterday came in like a bang with some 80-degree temperatures, and going to be pretty warm and muggy today, but probably about a week's worth of wet weather coming in soon in the next couple of days, they're saying. So anyways, that's I guess that's kind of normal. Around here, getting rain this late in the year, late in the season, is not a bad thing, because usually we start really drying out by now, and then leading into a dry summer. So it's, nothing to complain getting some rain into June like that. It's expected to be a fairly wet June, at least the first part of it. So I know that everyone is grown tired of all the World War III talk. It's been going on for years now. And I've been just as much part of that as anyone. And so I know that everyone has gotten tired of it. They don't want to hear it. Oh, we've been talking about this for years. Oh, yes, I know. We've heard it all. World War III is getting ready to start, right? I'm not necessarily saying that World War III is getting ready to start. I will say this. The use of the term World War III seems to have been used quite a bit here lately. And I think that the tensions are probably higher than they've ever been. And right now, the biggest cause of that, of course, is Ukraine and its very aggressive, like shocking attacks on Russia. In fact, both sides are calling it the Pearl Harbor of Russia, the Russian Pearl Harbor, where it looks like a very well put together plan, strategic plan, to get inside of Russia. They smuggled these drones inside of Russia over the last year and a half. They were all controlled by AI. You have to understand how this works. It's not like, a traditional drone where there's some guy with a video game joystick controlling it. They input the programming into the drones, and at some point, honestly, these drones could potentially set for months in these containers. They were shipping containers like what you put on the back of a semi, whether it's a radio frequency, a timer, something triggers them. And then the AI is actually determining what the targets are, what's the best way to hit, when, all this kind of stuff. There's not really much of any human control at that point. So they smuggled these into the country. They've hit several bases in Russia, some of them more successful than others. They took out several Russian strategic bombers. These are the big bombers that they would drop nukes or conventional weapons. The interesting thing is this has been, we're talking Moscow all the way over into Siberia. These things have been happening. Also this week, there's been a couple of bridges taken out in Russia with trains that were, destroyed, where there were civilian casualties. There's been a lot. There's been a lot of attacks, a lot of casualties for Russia in the last few days. So that just escalates everything substantially. And then today starts the peace talks. It's interesting how they did all this leading up to the peace talks. So apparently in Turkey, both Russia and Ukraine met this morning for peace talks. It lasted a little over an hour, and they both walked away, according to the news, getting nowhere, which isn't surprising. It's not surprising. Now, the thing is it sounds kind of similar to what's going on in Iran. So the United States says that they have given Iran its final proposal for denuclearization, peace talks, and it's being said so far in the news that at this point, nothing is official, but that Iran does not look like it's accepting this, that there was Iranian diplomats that became very irate and said that they will not destroy this stuff, get rid of this, nuclear material and stop producing it. It's not going to happen. Here's what I think is going on. I mean, well, let's hold on. This is what's going on, at least in appearance. United States, NATO, Russia, Israel, they're all involved in this, have put both of these parties, Russia and Iran, in a corner. If they accept these talks, then they look extremely weak. They don't look like that they've been successful and that they have, risen above everything to join in peace with the rest of the world. They look weak. And, what are they going to do? Accept that to look weak, or are they going to fight forward? And I think that there's a good chance, especially out of the two, that at least one of them are going to push forward. Putin is in a pickle right now. I'm not saying that they made some major blow on Russia and that Russia is extremely crippled. I don't think that. There's no evidence that they did that much damage. It's that if Russia does not respond in an according way to kind of spank Ukraine, then Putin is going to look very weak. And there's calls right now all throughout Russian military, Russian government, to pretty much stomp Ukraine into the ground. And I think Russia has that capability, even not using nukes, but definitely using nukes. And then in Iran, Israel is just waiting. I mean, minutes, hours, days away from launching a major strike against Iran. And it looks like that they might be holding off, seeing what happens with these negotiations. Although on the other hand, there's a lot of reports saying that they're going to strike them anyways. And it's the same thing with Iran. If Iran agrees to this, then Iran looks extremely weak, and that they're getting rid of all of this stuff that they have been developing, this technology. So the world is on edge right now. You could also say all these same things about China, when it comes to the trade and when it comes to Taiwan. So what we're seeing is, over the last few years, this buildup. Yes, it's taken 3 or 4 years or so. And, we expect it to happen in a moment because we've all watched all the movies, right? And they all happen within just a few minutes, 60 minutes, 90 minutes, maybe. So why is it taken 3 years? That's just how things work sometimes in this type of, scenario. And we've got major superpowers coming together in battle. Just today, the Prime Minister of Britain said that the UK is moving into a wartime stance. We've heard from Germany, we've heard from Poland, we've heard from several other European countries that's what they're doing. They're moving into a wartime stance. They're building their military. They're warning their people. They've been putting out warnings to their citizens to stock up on food. I saw the same thing in just the country just slipped my mind, but several of the European countries, and there was one just the other day that the Prime Minister or the President, warned its citizens that you need to stock up food, fuel, medicines, things like that. The world is getting ready for this. America isn't so much so, because America believes that, like in all other times of war, we've been isolated from it. It's not hit our shores really. And most Americans are in a completely different mindset, right? Because it's not at their doorstep. This time it could be. This time it definitely could be. I mean, did you see yesterday in Colorado, a terrorist attack? An illegal guy that entered illegally, was Muslim, and used Molotov cocktails to injure several people. This kind of stuff on a small scale, all the way up to large scale terrorist attacks, could very, very much be possible if we get into this state of war. A lot's going on. Ukraine, I mean, they look really good right now for a lot of people, but Russia hasn't reacted. Ukraine also, and I might add this, what they did with striking these planes part of international treaties that have been, for the last few decades were renewed back in 2010, I think, stated that any type of strategic nuclear equipment had to be out in the open so that the whole world could see it by satellite. And so Ukraine took advantage of that, striking these. I mean, same thing could happen here in the United States. China sends hundreds of ships over here, cargo vessels filled with containers. Any one of those containers could be filled with drones. The whole ship could be filled with drones and could do the same kind of damage, but on a broader scale here in the United States. So we're entering into a very different phase of this. I'm not saying that tomorrow or, in the next couple of months, we're going to see World War III on a big, broad scale. But I think we're much closer to it than what we've seen over the last few years. Things are getting pretty serious. And even though they're on the other side of the planet, I think that they could very much involve us. Obviously, a draft could happen. Restriction of items, like what we saw during World War II, where things were not as available. Prices of items could go up. We already saw this morning, oil prices jumped 4% this morning. There's a lot of possibilities could negatively affect us. And I'm not even talking about direct attacks on us. So with all this stuff going on, we need to be getting ourselves a little bit more ready. I think we should be concerned with this. I think we should be on edge. I think we should be elevating our emergency levels, much like the government and the military has, DEFCON levels or, different types of codes that we should be doing that same thing. Or have you been at a yellow? Maybe you need to go up a notch. Maybe you need to be a little bit more alert. Maybe your team or your tribe or your mag needs to be a little bit more, your readiness level needs to be up, because things are happening at a pretty rapid rate. And the possibility of nukes could be used now more than maybe ever. And just the possibility of things kind of spiraling out of control. I know that it may not happen. It's possible that peace could still happen, but it's looking much less likely. And we need to get ourselves ready. This is looking much more like the start of the real World War III, not the stuff that we've seen all along. Russia has been basically put into a corner. Even if it didn't damage them as much as the news media is stating, remember what I've been telling you all along since COVID. A lot of times nowadays, it's not so much of what really is going on, it's the perception of it. And the perception right now is that Russia got hurt really bad, and Russia looks really weak, and Putin looks really weak. That's the perception. And Russia is not going to allow that. They are not going to allow that. And so you've painted him and put him into a corner. And that's a really bad place to put Vladimir Putin and Russia. And it's the same way with Iran. And I think it's the same thing that the United States is trying to do with China. Almost like they're trying to provoke a war, not prevent one. Folks, we need to get our houses in order. This is getting kind of serious now. You should be preparing yourselves mentally, physically, and spiritually. Thanks for watching. Catch you in the next video.